Have you ever had a piece of clothing tear or a seam split open while you were wearing it? It's the worst, but it's especially bad when you made the piece of clothing yourself and you actually put a lot of time and attention into it. Sometimes it has nothing to do with your skill as a sewer. You might have just used the wrong thread for your fabric. There are a lot of different options for thread, from really heavy, sturdy thread to really fine and delicate ones. And you might think that the stronger the thread, the better. But actually, choosing a thread that's too strong can be just as bad as choosing a thread that's too fine, and we're going to show you why. In this video, Haley and I are going to explore what happens if you use the wrong thread, and we'll also show you how to pick the right kind of thread for any sewing project. It's not really about the one best thread, but picking the right thread for your fabric. But before we get to that, if you're someone who's interested in making your own clothing with more intention and joy, you are in the right place here at Seamwork. So hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you can follow along with us and never miss one of our weekly videos. So if you use the wrong kind of thread, is your project going to be ruined? Let's find out. All right, Haley, so what happens if you use a thread that's too weak for your fabric?
That's a great question. So if your thread is too weak, the thread itself runs the risk of snapping when it's under any kind of pressure. So your fabric won't necessarily rip, but your thread very well may.
Okay, and what if your thread is actually too strong for your fabric?
So then you're going to run into the opposite kind of a problem. If your thread is too strong, then you run the risk of your fabric actually ripping, which in my opinion is way worse because it's so much harder to repair. So your thread is going to be, holding on for dear life. And eventually, if it's under too much pressure, one of them is going to give. And in that case, it is going to be your fabric, not your thread.
That makes sense. It's almost like perforations in a piece of paper where it just tears right off the thread. Yeah. So what happens if you're using a thread that's too thick for your fabric?
Yes, so if your thread is too thick for your fabric, you're going to run into a few different issues. One, you may have troubles with your sewing machine. It might get jammed a little bit more easily. Second, you're going to run into some kind of issues that might look like tension issues. And that's because ideally you want your thread to kind of sink into your fabric in a way. And when you're using really heavy thread and not heavy fabric, it's really going to sit on the surface, and that might result in some kind of loopy looking stitching. It's just going to be really obvious. And also, ultimately, that kind of tension issue may very well weaken your seam as well.
So those are kind of the three main problems. You chose a thread that's too weak, you chose a thread that's too strong, or you chose a thread that maybe is too thick.
Yes.
So let's talk about how to choose the right thread. Okay, so let's go over the different types of thread and how you can use them.
Totally. So the first type of thread that I want to go over is all-purpose sewing thread. So this, like its name implies, is really all-purpose. This is your workhorse when it comes to sewing projects, and it's what you're going to probably buy most often. All-purpose polyester thread is made from polyester, and the reason we like polyester is because it's quite strong but also lightweight, so it's not going to be obvious. It's going to blend with your fabric really well, and also it has a little bit of manual give to it, so it's going to stretch and move with your fabric, and that's going to be really great for kind of wear and tear. It fits that nice balance of strength, lightweight, and then also having a little bit of natural give to it.
Yeah, I know a lot of us are kind of averse to polyester. I know I really like natural fibers in my clothing, but this is one case where polyester is actually often a superior choice in your clothing.
Definitely. This is for seams that are really made to last.
Okay, the next thread I want to talk about is cotton. And cotton thread is really smooth and it has a lot of flexibility to it, but it doesn't have a lot of give. It doesn't have that elasticity that polyester does, so it's really, really easy to snap. So you can just kind of pull on it and it breaks very, very easily. So you don't want to use it with any kind of fabric that has any sort of give to it at all. You want to use it with things like lawn or voile or something that is not going to stretch at all. In most cases, you want to stick with the polyester thread for clothing. Cotton thread is often used in quilting, where when you're using it for quilting, obviously the quilting part of a quilt doesn't have a lot of wear and tear on it. It doesn't have a lot of pull on it because it's on the surface, so that's a great use for cotton thread.
Next up, we have silk thread. And I would say this is probably one of the most misunderstood threads out there. Silk is very, very strong as a fiber. It's probably the strongest natural occurring fiber. And for that reason, you may think, oh, I'm sewing this really lovely, lightweight blouse. I want to use silk to sew it with. And that feels like a logic that totally makes sense. But I would say, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. That is because silk is really strong, and if your seams are under any pressure or tension at all, your lovely lightweight fabric is going to rip, and that would just be the hugest bummer. So instead, I recommend using something like silk for hand basting, machine basting. This works really well for basting because once you press it, it becomes nearly invisible. It's also just really lovely to hand sew with. It has such great glide. So if you're doing something like any hand sewing, like a hand rolled hem, as long as that hem isn't going to be under a lot of stress and tension, a silk thread would be lovely for that.
The last thread we have here is top stitching thread. So this is a polyester top stitching thread, and it's very thick. So this is a thread that's very, very sturdy, and it's really meant to be seen. So when you have top stitching on a pair of jeans, for example, and you can really see that thread on the outside, and it's really meant to be seen, it's decorative, that's when you want to use top stitching thread. That's it for us today. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to let us know by hitting the like button. And be sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications if you haven't already so you get all our weekly videos. If you're new to sewing and you want to learn everything you need to know in one place, check out our new course, Learn to Sew Clothing for Absolute Beginners. It walks you through all of the component skills you need to sew most garments, and it's taught by me and Haley. You can find it at seamwork.com, and we'll put a link to the course in the description below. And if you like to read articles in addition to watching videos, head over to seamwork.com, where we post articles to go with our episodes every week. We also have a podcast called Seamwork Radio, where we talk every week about practical ideas for building a creative process so you can sew with more intention and joy, because that's what we're all about. Just search for Seamwork Radio on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you like to listen to podcasts. You can also find us on social media at Seamwork. And if you'd like to join Seamwork and become part of our private community, plus get access to hundreds of sewing patterns and dozens of sew-along classes, YouTube subscribers get 50% off lifetime discount when you join at seamwork.com/go/YouTube50. We'll put a link to that below. So wherever you choose to join us, I hope you have a great rest of your week. Remember to have fun and be yourself, because that's what sewing's all about.